Hey, how you doing? It's your pal Mike Squires, and this is the Couch Riffs podcast, episode number 234. That's a real nice number, isn't it? 234. 234. We are getting close to the end of the year. And I spent a lot of time touring this year. Thank you for hanging in there, sticking with me. I still managed to put out, I think, 30 podcast episodes, which is pretty good, all things considered. So thank you. Thank you so much. My guest this episode, and we're going to finish strong. I've got episodes every week till the end of the year. Then all bets are off. Then we're going to 5 episodes a week. That's when I lose all of my subscribers. My guest this episode is Frank Grocholski, aka Frankie G, super talented guitar player from the Baltimore area. Grew up in Jersey, lived in Baltimore for a long time, played around. He's living in Texas now, doing a number of session gigs, pickup gigs here and there. He's also playing in a band called Cowboy Mouth, which you may remember and know. They do regular touring, fly-in dates. Frank stays super busy, and it's hard to stay busy as a musician, so I commend him for that. He recently played on the episode of Ain't It Fun, that last Couch Riffs performance video that came out. He played the good guitar, I played the bad guitar, or the mediocre guitar. You'll know the difference. So it was fun to finally connect. We'd talked on the phone a couple times, but it was good to really get to know him more. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. If you do, please, by all means, support Couch Riffs on Patreon. I have, plans. I have plans for Couch Riffs. Hopefully next year it could happen. I don't know. But it definitely, a lot of what I would like to do hinges on my ability to up and leave and sustain life. And so Patreon and selling t-shirts and all of the other things that I do as a side hustle make all that stuff happen. So if you are already supporting me at Patreon, thank you so much. If you are not and you're just watching and enjoying, thank you too. If you would like to and are able to, please do. Thank you very, very much. You will be contributing to realizing the enthusiasm that I have for new projects. So thank you. I would also like to thank Variety Coffee Roasters. Every single morning, what am I drinking? What am I brewing up in my kitchen? Variety. Uh, I drink. Let's see. I brew up something called High Hopes. High Hopes is a single origin Ethiopian coffee. It's fucking delicious. I love it. I brew my coffee through a Chemex. I've also made French presses here. My wife also really enjoys the French press, so that's how she makes it when I'm not around, and she loves it too. The whole family loves Variety Coffee. So go give them a follow on social media at Variety Coffee Roasters. Go buy some coffee from their website. Right now is a great time. They have a subscription over there. Buy someone a coffee subscription for Christmas at Variety Coffee Roasters. Tell them I sent you. That's it. I can't think of a better endorsement to give a product than me using it. So there you go. Thank you, Variety. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, and whatever else you're doing. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and don't be a dick, not to other people or yourself. For sure. 100%
Nice.
my dogs are going to make noise.
They'll probably want to come in at some point, so we'll get to meet them.
I mean, in fact, look at that. There's one there. That's aptly named Mr. Big. Um, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How about
Yeah,
yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a good year. Um,
Good Thanksgiving and everything?
yeah, 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 Thanksgiving was awesome. The best part about Thanksgiving, other than the obvious, like the best byproduct of Thanksgiving is, in my opinion, leftovers and sandwiches for a couple, 2, 3 days. And I had
Hmm.
a bounty of sandwiches this year, and so the rest of
Nice.
my year is gold.
That's awesome.
Uh, where am I? Where are you at right now?
I am at my little home studio in Temple, Texas.
Temple,
So
Texas.
about about 45 minutes to an hour north of Austin, depending on I-35 traffic.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. North is San Antonio is south of Austin. Is that right? Am I?
Yes.
Yeah. What is there a major city if you keep traveling north?
So I'm kind of like right between Austin and Waco,
Got it.
like almost smack dab in the middle of those two.
How long have you been in Texas now?
Uh, it's officially a year.
Is that right?
I've been down here a year now, and I love it, man.
How? Yeah. So tell me. Well, let's talk about that in a minute. Um,
Okay.
this is like a generic question that I ask everyone, but I think it's a good place to start because it establishes maybe not as much anymore because globalism is real and the internet robs most regional scenes of their specialness. But where are you
Right.
from, and how do you think that that has affected you as a player?
So I moved around a lot as a kid. I was born around the Asbury Park area and lived all through New Jersey in the '80s. So and then moved to Maryland, little farm town called Forest Hill,
Hmm.
um, which is about I'd say about an hour and a half to hour and a half north of Baltimore City. Um, so I got around a lot, and you know, guitar very early age. I got my first guitar at 3, and that was always a consistent, thing for
Wow.
me. Um, and no matter where I was, I could play guitar. Um, and I was fortunate enough. My mom was a music appreciator, and where we lived in New Jersey was not too far from where you had like the '80s hair band Mecca. So like Trickster, Skid Row, Bon Jovi, all those bands were not too far from where I grew up, and it influenced the scene a lot. And my mom, being a music appreciator, would have host jam sessions in our house. And I remember some of my earliest memories, like just all these dudes, either like teased up hair, or flannel, just sitting in the basement playing music together and just talking about their influences and hanging out and having a good time. So that was kind of like yeah, I dig that.
Wow. Uh, so you said you got your first guitar when you were 3. I have to assume that that's like a small something that represented a guitar. It wasn't a guitar that you could actually play. Do you remember the first time you actually made a recognizable tune on the guitar?
Yeah, I kind of took to it pretty quick. By 5, I was playing some basic like Beatles songs, like just basic chords. And I still have that guitar. It's out in the garage. But
Really?
it is I've used it on sessions over the years. But it's a an old Harmony, like 3/4 size Harmony electric guitar with 2 pickups. They look like P90s, but they're not.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I had my little pig nose amp, and you know, just start banging away on that. And like those guys that I was telling you about would show me little things here and there. And my mom put me into lessons when I was 5, and I was playing the hits of the day. So like I could pick up the guitar and play like the main riff from "You Give Love a Bad Name,"
Uh-huh.
you know. And
Perfect.
so yeah, so it was total Jersey kid, you know.
Right.
um, but yeah, so like from that age, like I was just into it, and as that grew, uh, by like elementary school. Let's see, I got the Bleach album before I got Nevermind. Um, I'll never forget. I had birthday money. We went to Sam Goody
Mm-hmm.
in the mall, and I got the Beatles' White Album on cassette, Metallica and Justice for All, and Nirvana Bleach. I walked out with those 3 albums because I thought the covers were cool,
Yeah.
and those kind of started forming my guitar playing there. And I wore out the Bleach record um, because I was trying to figure out the song. So I'd hit stop and rewind so much that the tape just stretched out. And I was very determined at that age to know how to play the songs without any help.
Right.
And it became a game later. Like, could I put on the radio and play the song before it was over?
Right. It's
So,
funny how when that
yeah.
skill like comes to you, like if, I imagine you're how many times have you been on a stage when someone calls out a song and you're like, I've never heard it. What's the chord progression? And then all of a sudden you're playing it.
Yeah, well, there was a gig. I did 3 gigs on Sunday.
Uh-huh.
Um, and 2 of them were people that I've met, I've just never played with. And they were just calling songs, and they would give me the key. I'd listen and watch their hands and go, okay, got it.
Right.
So it happens weekly for me where I'm playing with a artist either I've played with for a while or I've just met, and they just call it. They trust me enough that they can call a song and go for it. And I know when to lay out.
Right. Wh- How do you get comfortable with that sort of experience on stage?
Years of being uncomfortable. I think. I uh Now it's just I've done it for so long that I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I trust myself and I trust my ears. And playing and doing sessions, you can kind of hear what chord changes are going to come up.
Right.
Um, but getting into it, like I was just a lover of music young. So, back to middle and high school, especially, like putting the radio on any station and trying to play along with what was on kind of helped build my knowledge of song forms and progressions. And like, if someone could hum a melody, I can find the chords for it.
Right. Because
So,
there are like what, 10
uh,
song forms,
right, yeah,
right?
it's not many. Yeah,
And if you
there's
know the
only
key, you probably know where, I mean, the bridge is the wild card.
yeah, always, always the wild card.
That's one. That's what'll get you. Good luck asking the drummer what the chord is.
I just make the face and play the drums, man.
um, Let me ask you this: because you started playing guitar so young, like a lot of people picked up the guitar when they were in, junior high school or high school, and then in doing that, they sort of lost interest in school, over the next couple years. That's a story I hear over and over, and it's a story that was a part of my life also, right?
Right.
Because the guitar wasn't a new thing to you when you were at that age, like going through puberty and in high school and like all the things where you're like, so, this is who I am. Do you
Right.
have a different experience with school as it relates to your attention with music?
uh, when I, especially high school, it got hit or miss,
Yeah,
and because that's when I really, I think eighth grade is when I started reading about like Brent Mason, Michael Landau, Steve Lukather.
right.
So my focus really became, how do I become a session player? How do I play with these big artists? I never had the dreams of being a rock star. Um, I always had the dream of, how do I sustain as a musician?
That's
And
smart.
you know, yeah, it's
I still spend a lot of
but
energy trying to imagine that.
me too. I haven't figured it out myself, but it's, this industry is ever evolving, so you never, there's left turns thrown in all the time. Um, but yeah, school for me, like, I knew I could buckle down and do it, and I made the honor roll several times and everything. But yeah, there was definitely points where I was like, ah, I got gigs. I'm gonna hang out and play music with my friends, and that paper can wait until later. You
Sure,
know.
sure. Um, did you do music school? Were you, did you go do like a music college or anything like that, or were you straight to gigging?
I am a Berkeley dropout.
Is that right? Good for you.
Yeah. Um, Great school. I have a lot of students. I actually have one in there right now that's he got a full ride. Um, but I think, especially at this point in my career, what I've seen, it's a better school if you're going for a graduate program than undergrad. If music's going to be your focus,
Right,
it's just, there's so many students. The student to teacher ratio is a little rough, but you get a lot of lessons outside of the classroom because there's so many great players going in there.
right.
Um, but I just wanted to play music, and I started playing full time at like 16, 17 years old. So like interrupting that to go to school was, especially because I decided to go for a performance and recording degree, which I was already doing. So I kind of had that realization, was like, I'm spending money when I could be making the money.
Tell me about that feeling, like, because I guess in your mind, you know, when I was a kid, going to GIT was the thing. Everyone wanted to go to GIT, right? But I realized that wasn't going to happen for me because it costs a lot of money. But also, and this is perception. Um, the players that were coming out of there were they were monsters. Like they could shred, and my hands don't work like that. And so I kind of realized, I guess that's not the kind of player that I am. Like I can play some fast things, but I don't, I'm just kind of thrashing around really. Um, but you followed all the way through. You went to school. You had already been gigging. You had already been recording. Were you disappointed when you got there? Like, oh, wait a minute. Uh, like the education that I want isn't here.
Uh, I wasn't like, the teachers are great. They were giving me a lot of information, but I saw it as a hindrance, in what I was already doing. It's or not a hindrance, just a roadblock in really getting into the nitty gritty. I talked to people that graduated, and they have a great alumni uh, infrastructure to help with gig placement and stuff like that.
Oh, that's nice.
Um, yeah, and some of the guys go back and either teach or work in the admin building, and you know, I have a friend that works for their the acceptance department, and he works remotely, so he's able to concentrate on his music and and really be set and stable. But for me, I just wanted to be in the trenches, learning from the guys that have been doing it for a while, because I felt like that was anything in a school I was finding too formatted
Right.
and too, you know, like there was stuff I was learning in the recording class that in the studio guys would do the opposite
Sure.
and it would sound better. And
Also,
its
how old were
application,
you when you were there? 19?
I was 18.
18. So you're also experiencing this as an 18-year-old with the impatience of an 18-year-old, with the eagerness to not be sitting in a classroom, not be studying, to actually be playing, right? Gigging, touring.
Yeah.
Do you think that
Yeah.
you would
And when I
have a
looked at
different amount of patience and approach if you went as today's version of Frankie?
I would say probably not.
No.
If I was going for that, what I, what I, what I tell most of my students that are going into any school for music, if when they tell me they want to get a performance degree, I tell them no.
Right.
Because I mean, to me, if you're out playing, you're performing, that degree is kind of wasted. That's just spending a bunch of money to get a piece of paper that says you can go out and play. But
Kurt Cobain didn't
getting
need that.
something in, like, what's that?
Kurt Cobain didn't need a performance degree.
Right, exactly. Well, I was gonna say that was my next thing. I tell all my students to go in for like a music business or something like that,
That's probably
or
that's
music
pretty solid
therapy or
advice.
something like something that they can really benefit from because they always have the playing ability. They just have to find the people. Um, but yeah, when I looked at all my heroes, I have the aforementioned like Brent Mason, um, Clapton, Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Steve Vai, Satriani, Petrucci, like all these cats, uh, Landau, and they didn't go to school. I mean, yeah, Vai has an honorary doctorate from Berkeley, but I think he went for 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, the guys from Dream Theater were there for like a semester or two. Um, they were just driven and put the work in to learn everything. So that was kind of what I was doing. I kind of kept my nose to the grindstone and would start reading about modes. I'd read every guitar player, Guitar World, Premier Guitar, whatever literature I could get my hands on. And it'd be like, go get this book. So I'd go to the music store, grab a book, whether it be like, um, you know, I'm looking at, I have a tonal harmony book that I bought, the big book of jazz harmony,
Guitar, like
you know,
multiple volumes of the Guitar Grimoire.
yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Um, I still don't understand some of that stuff. Um, but yeah, I try to really immerse myself in everything and learn as much theory as I could on my own. Um, I got cut from the high school jazz band because my reading wasn't good. Because I didn't, after those few lessons I took when I was 5 or 6, I was just self taught. I used my ear, and was building that. I was working on that part and the self reliance on learning stuff. And sometimes I get it wrong. It happens. That's part of learning.
Sure.
And I took, I think between my sophomore and sophomore and junior year, I took lessons from a guy uh, in in Bel Air, Maryland, called Graham Gold. He's an awesome teacher, and it was really cool because he'd take us to like the guitar shows in Philly and stuff to check out all the cool vintage gear. But really just wanted to learn how to read, and I came out of that summer not only learning how to read guitar music, but you could give me a Charlie Parker chart written for an E flat instrument, and I'd be able to transpose it on site. I was that dedicated to
Can you
just
still do that?
getting it. Uh, no, my reading is not great.
Yeah,
um, if I sat down, I go in and out of phases, and it has to do with students, with what they're working on. But I
sure.
I go in and out of like being able to sight read really well to, man, I really gotta beef up on that again. But
Right.
I got cut from the jazz band that year and in my school, but I made all county and beat our guitar player and the guitar players all through the county. So, it was kind of I looked at the punk rock side of it and, was like, man, it's all like politics, it's all fixed. um, so, you know, I was just like, nah, I'll do it on my own. And I played with all my friends' bands in high school. I was never in one band. I was always in two or three.
Did you stick
And
around Boston when after you left Berkeley?
I didn't. I moved to LA for a couple months,
Huh.
but I was too young to really do anything. So I moved back to Baltimore. And I actually, tried to finish my, at least an associate's degree. I went to the community college there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just that thing of like gigging until 2 in the morning and then being up for class and, being in whatever class, whether it's English or math or even some of my music classes at 8 a.m. I was just like, man, I'm just going to keep playing.
Yeah, that's a tough schedule to keep,
Yeah.
especially if you can't take a nap in the middle of the day. Were you also
Yeah.
keeping a day job while you were going to school and gigging, or were you just like, I'm a musician and that's what I'm doing?
I'm a musician and that's what I'm doing. I was teaching, um, gigging when I could, trying to pick up scraps for sessions, like, doing them super cheap. Uh, I tried working at Guitar Center. That wasn't for me.
That's not for most people.
Something about I loved being in there. I would talk the reps' ears off because I was just trying to learn all I could about the gear.
Sure.
But the it's a sales gig, so it's about turnover. You know, greeting the customer. I was super shy, so that was rough.
Right.
Um, so trying to greet the customer and get them to buy something and spitting out everything that they you think they want to hear was rough for me because I'd sit there, especially at that time. The Line 6 Veda was the big, you know, that's what everyone should buy.
Right.
It was like between Veda or a triple rectifier. That was kind of like the gear that everyone wanted, and the Veda had so much in and outs that I'd sit down with the customer and show them everything, so they walk away and not come back with questions or a return.
Right.
But that yielded way less sales.
It's funny, I've done my share of being a sales rep and being a product specialist, and um you walk in, and I know a lot of like super talented guys and girls who they can walk in and they can go check out how awesome this is. They play a little bit and they're like, send us 10. And
Right.
most of the time they don't really want to know about what it is. They want to know that it has the capability of sounding amazing. And more often than not, that has to do with the person playing it, right?
Right.
Jeff Beck could make a, you know, Silvertone sound amazing. Um,
Yeah, we had a
that's that's hilarious.
yeah we had a guy come in. We had a guy come in that he played $100 Squire Bullet that only had the back like bridge humbucker
Yeah, man.
through one of the Squire amps, and he sounded like Ingve playing through a '68 Strat and a Marshall.
Yeah, man.
um,
That's it.
but yeah, it's how much time do you put in on your craft to really make whatever you want, whatever piece of gear you pick up to sound like that. Um, I did the product specialist thing for Fishman for a little bit.
Oh, so did
And
I.
man, I love that.
Did we
Oh,
maybe
cool.
meet? When did you do it?
I think like 2015 to 17.
Okay, so you were after me.
And I was doing my territory was from Erie, Pennsylvania down to Virginia Beach.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I did that gig also. I did it when the little acoustic amps were the big thing, but they rolled out the Fluence pickups while I worked there. The very first version. Um, they're
yeah,
pretty cool. Like that was a fun gig.
yeah.
I
I
used my triple play until my triple play finally died this year. I finally threw it away.
uh,
But I
I
think I'll
use that on
probably
it.
buy another one. It's a good product.
It really is. And like the I was using it. I started off just using it for students because it came with the regression uh app
Transcription thing.
for yeah. So like if I had a student that wanted to learn I'll just say something notey like Dream Theater. I've had a bunch of Dream Theater wannabe students, and it's hard to play like Petrucci. Um,
What?
but like I'd uh I'd play a slower version of the As I Am solo, and it would track it and put it in standard notation and tablature, and I could just get that PDF to my student versus sitting there and them trying to decipher my handwriting.
Right.
And uh and then the triple play I also used on wedding gigs. We'd play a Lady Gaga tune, and I
Get that
needed
synth sound.
a synth sound instead of just guitars. Yeah, it was awesome. I love that thing.
Um, yeah, I should probably buy one. They're great for recording too. I did tons of demos. There's nothing there's
Yeah,
nothing more fun than being an electric piano player as a guitar player. Like bust out
right.
the whirly or the Rhodes, and it's just like, look at this wizard. Anyway, this isn't a Fishman
That
commercial.
was no, no.
They can send us
That was my big some swag.
some pickups, and I'm happy to talk about them.
Right? Yeah.
Um, did you visit their place though? Also,
I never got a chance to,
yeah,
unfortunately. I always wanted to, especially because I wanted to see that room that they did all the Ara recordings.
very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. Who is that giant guy that is hilarious and is a insane guitarist? He's got a signature.
Greg
T- yeah, Greg Koch. So
Greg Koch, yeah.
he was like the presenter when they were getting us jazzed about that pickup, right? Um, about the Fluence pickups, and so he talked to it. He was the presenter, um, not Larry. So it was
Right.
cool. I went out there a couple times. They're good folks. Anyway, that's interesting. We have that in common.
That's
That's
awesome.
funny.
Well,
Um,
it's funny. Didn't you and Ewald have something in common too with like PRS or
PRS.
something?
Yeah, I worked
Yeah.
while you were. Well, no, I guess for part of that time, I worked at PRS. I couldn't
That's
do
awesome.
both, so and that was a great gig. I covered the West Coast, um, and that's a good company. That's a great company. Um,
Yeah, it's the
yeah, you were
all hanging
telling
up
me,
behind me.
you were telling me that you had an SE Silver Sky that you put humbuckers in. Is that true? Do you have it here? Can I see
Yeah,
it?
it is in New Orleans right now. Um,
Ah,
yeah, I bought one of the SEs and just like I said, that Michael Landau thing. They came out with his master built guitar, and I wasn't. If I'm gonna spend 5 grand and above on a guitar, it's probably gonna be a vintage guitar.
sure.
And I was just like, man, especially if it looks beaten up and relic and everything, I'd rather have the real thing. And I just looked at the specs and I was like, man, the Silver Sky SE is almost to spec with that. So I just had it routed out through two Lawler low wind Imperials in it, and man, it is killer.
I'll bet. Did you keep the pick guard or did you swap the pick guard out? Did you cut a new one?
I swapped. I had one cut for it because I like the. I'm a big fan of a white Strat with a torque guard
Yeah.
with like, and I think it's just such a good look. Um, my main Strat for years was it's a 2001. It's around here somewhere. It's a 2001 Deluxe. Um, so you can, and it's kind of like the Mary Kay. You can see that it's a swamp ash body, so you can see through the white paint. You can see all the wood grain,
Yeah.
and man, I that look is just it gets me every time.
Yeah. You can see I'm starting to have a little bit of variety, but for the ever all I had was black guitars. It's crazy. Um, all right, we got sidetracked there for a minute. We got sidetracked a lot. Expect
That's
more
okay.
sidetracks. So
I like it.
you get back to Maryland, you're gigging, you're 20
Mhm.
years old.
Yeah,
Wh-
about 20.
What what d- it's a crazy time. You're young and you're like you just want to be doing it. You want to be doing it. When do you finally get some touring under your belt and how does the road sort of roll out in front of you?
Well, I did a bunch of like regional tours and some fly dates with a band called SR71. I worked as their tech.
When was
Um,
this? What year?
this was when I was 20. Um, and I was playing in a band called Plunge, um, kind of as the hired gun because their guitar player was concentrating on college, and
What year were you working for SR71?
that was 2003.
Okay, so we missed each other just by a couple years because I did a tour with those guys. So go on. We
Oh,
crossed
really?
paths again.
Oh, that's funny. um, but yeah, I played with the bass player at that time was this guy Mike Rocco, and he had a band in the area that was uh, pretty big for a regional band called Plunge, and we talked a little bit, and he asked for me to play with them, and then their tech uh, SR71's tech left for some reason, and he asked if I would come do that stuff, and I was like, yeah, sure, like because I knew how to solder pickups. I knew how to set gear up and get out of the way and change strings quickly and all that stuff. So, because Mitch is pretty particular about things, um, because he's fronting the band and he doesn't want to think about anything else other than how do I connect with the audience?
Sure.
Just give me the guitar and make sure it's in tune. Totally get it. And so I was that guy. And we actually did a tour of Japan. Plunge opened for SR-71. Um, around, yeah, it was just before my 21st birthday. And it was a crazy time because, meeting all these, we were playing, it was a USO tour. So we were playing a lot of like military bases and stuff like that.
Got it.
And I was meeting all these guys that were my age. And my senior year of high school, I thought about going into the Marine Corps. My grandfather was a Marine. He served in Korea. He was a sergeant. And, kind of, he passed away when I was younger. And it was kind of like, man, I'll do that kind of to honor him. But I didn't want to cut my hair. Um, and I was too far into playing music again.
Yeah.
And I have this, the Marines would have broke this out of me, I'm sure. But like, when I get yelled at, I laugh. I can't help it. It's just a defense mechanism. And
Uh, I can tell
so that
you,
wouldn't have
I
boded well.
joined the Marines and I laughed all the way through boot camp and I got in a lot of trouble, but I never stopped laughing. So it wouldn't have whooped it out of you. Trust me. I can tell you
That's
that from
that's
experience.
good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
um, you know, but it was an interesting time to go over and play for the troops because meeting all these guys that are my age. I graduated in 2001,
Right,
so I basically would have went straight through boot camp and over to Afghanistan.
right.
Um, you know, so I'm thankful I like there was something tapping me on the shoulder to like just stay the path that you're on. Um, but man, it was there was something magical about going over and playing for those guys
I've always
and getting
wanted
to
to do
connect with them.
USO tour. Were you on? Oh, you went to Okinawa, I'm assuming. Did you also do mainland?
Yeah, we did. We started in Okinawa, and we actually our stay in Okinawa ended up a couple days longer because a typhoon hit. But we went all the way from Okinawa to Mount Fuji
Wow,
and
what a
like drove
beautiful
through
place.
Hiroshima. Man, it was gorgeous. And it's just a real quick story. In Okinawa, there's a bar called Seventh Heaven
Uh
on the Koza side, and we walk in, and the band's playing "Under a Glass Moon" by Dream Theater. So like
huh.
everybody else in the band looks at me, and I'm like, yes. And they're, because at that point, joining Plunge, I went from playing my guitar up here to below the waist,
Right.
Jimmy Page style. It was the look of the band. It was, everything that they were going for. So I was, you know, that was my first real getting thrown into a hired gun thing. Like get the look, get the tone, all that stuff. The tone I learned on that tour a lot more. But yeah, we walk in, the band's playing Dream Theater, and I don't remember. I don't know if you remember the video on E-Bombs World of this blonde-haired Japanese dude playing Super Mario on his guitar and making all the coin noises and the
Right.
um
Sure, I remember a video
and
like
the
this.
he was the guitar player in the band.
Oh yeah, nice. Had you already seen the video? Was that already circulating or
Yeah, I had already seen the video and like walked up. I was like, I know that guy.
you felt like you knew him?
Yeah.
What were those USO tours
So
like? And did you do any shows in Afghanistan or was it just Japan?
Yeah, I did Afghanistan with a different band. They were two completely different sides of the tour because SR-71, we ended up, because of that name, we got hotel rooms that were on the base.
Right.
So um, that was really nice. Everyone got their own hotel room every night. You know,
For people listening who are not touring musicians, that is a luxury.
it is a huge luxury.
Not yeah, not
um,
not something that is a given.
no, no, no. But then doing the tour in Afghanistan, it was you slept in the barracks, and it's partially because that's all they had, really. You know, were tents and stuff like that. So, which I liked both for different reasons. Having your privacy and super being super comfortable in the hotels, that was great. Then the other side of, being in the barracks with all the guys in the military and hearing the stories and just the camaraderie that goes on, there's,
That's a
that
real
was really special too.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will give you a completely different appreciation for what's happening, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like you're just
Absolutely.
getting briefed by some, some lieutenant before you take the stage. Like, all right, these guys do. It's like they're gonna let you know.
It's the better not get too close. They'll think I'm part of the band.
um, wow, what a cool experience! I always wanted to do that, and
Yeah.
we were close to doing some, and I don't some weird thing happened, some weird election thing was going on, and we canceled. So I never
Man.
got to do it, but I would have loved to.
Yeah, it's a blast, man.
So when
It's
you
it's
when
a
you
lot of
get
fun.
home, what did you get into? We're like mid 2000s now.
So jumped back into doing the hired gun thing around town with different bands. Um, I had one cover act that I played with pretty regularly. Um, that band Plunge was still doing regional stuff. Um, and then doing a lot more session work at that point. And in 2006, I started teaching. Brian Ewald reached out to me, and I started teaching at the School of Rock with him.
Oh, cool.
And when that school first opened, man, that was one. It was I saw a big shift because I taught with the school from 2006 to 2021, and there's big shift because I left for about 2 years because I was touring a lot with a couple different artists, so I just couldn't dedicate myself to the students like they deserved. Um, but those early years, the phones weren't distracting the kids. The kids were there to play music, and at least in Baltimore, a lot of those kids are still playing music, and some of them are still playing music together, and it's really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, seeing them come in as adults and really come into their own. I had a student there. His handle for a little bit, I taught him because I taught with the National Guitar Workshop and then their offshoot day jams. And I had this kid that for about a week I didn't know his real name. I just knew him as Metal Kid. So everyone called him Metal Kid. Um, you know, long hair, played a BC Rich Warlock, I believe,
Awesome.
and was so into Slipknot, and he I taught him between the camps and everything for a good 7 years,
Wow.
and his handle now is Drusiv Stalin, um, and he's big in like the tech metal world.
Uh-huh.
And he goes over and does all those tech metal festivals in Europe, and does you know demos for Bias Effects and all these, and I think he just did a couple for Neural.
Yeah.
Like he's crushing it. Um, and he would hate. He never wanted to be a lead guitar player. He was a riff guy,
Yeah.
and his riffs were really good, and they've just gotten better over time.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "That's cool, man. Check out this Brad Paisley lick." And he's no, no, no. And he would humor me and like actually try it, and then you'd hear him play something, and it's like, oh, there's kind of what we did with the Brad Paisley lick, but now it's metal.
Right. It's I think it's interesting, especially even in the metal world, there are more people that are like hybrid picking. People are incorporating all kinds of, doubles, like more interesting double stops. It's cool. Like most of the
Yeah.
best players are able to cross pollinate.
The I can't stress that enough to students. Or to get into everything. You don't have to. You can appreciate like I'll listen to. I still sometimes put Dream Theater on,
Sure.
or I'll put Cannibal Corpse on or something,
Yeah. Why
like,
wouldn't you?
um, and then I'll put on like Ernest Tubb, some old school Texas country, and then like
With some funky
maybe
swing like
Debussy.
pedal steel. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh man, I try to work on my pedal steel chops because of that stuff. And like hearing what those cats played back then when that instrument was just in its infancy and they were trying to figure it out themselves.
It is the most interesting instrument to me. I bought one once, and it was a student model. It was like two knee levers, three pedals. And
Yeah.
I made whale sounds for a month and just packed it up and sold it. I was like, I'm never going to get this. Um, I'm sure that if I exercise some patience, I would be able to hammer my way through it. But there are just people who are just trying to stay in my lane. There are people who have dedicated their lives to being great on that instrument, and those people are extraordinary to me. Do you have a steel guitar, or are you, when you say you're working on your licks, you're working on the 6-string version of them?
No, I have a pedal steel that I actually bought from Ewald.
Oh wow.
Um, it's getting fixed right now. But I got away with doing a lot of sessions in the mid 2000s.
Hmm.
I bought my first Telecaster in 2004, um, because I really dove into the Jeff Buckley stuff. But between that and then always being a Brent Mason fan, and I started playing some country with a couple people, and I was like, man, I just need to get the right guitar because my PRS at the time or my Strats just they weren't getting there,
Right.
and I bought. This is actually the first Telecaster I bought. It's the Highway One. It was
Oh
like the
yeah.
first year the Highway Ones came out, and a lot of hours on it. But I was doing all the behind the nut bends and
Hmm.
everything like that to try and and putting, a nice plate style reverb and a little bit of delay and compression to try and get that pedal steel thing. And I got good enough at faking it that I was getting called for sessions like, "You do pedal steel, right?" I was like, "I do pedal steel things. Um, I do not do pedal steel." And it became, the want to learn that instrument and all the ins and outs. Like I put a B bender on my telly, and that was starting to get even more there.
Do you
But
still have a
buying a
do you
real,
still have a B bender on your telly?
I have it on a telly that's in one of the cases back here.
Is it a palm bender?
Um,
One of those things?
it's a hip shot. Brian actually hit me to that where you put the lever in and just go to the
Yeah,
side and it bends it. Um, I bought an actual B bender, but I move way too much
right.
to use it. Um, I'm a little animated on stage. Um, and some of the gigs I'm doing now, it's I play with an artist in New Orleans named Kim Carson, and it's old school honky tonk country. It's anything from Ernest Tubb, Waylon, Merle Haggard, all that kind of stuff.
There's
And then she has a bunch of originals as well.
there's probably a lot of fun picking for
And
you to
the
do on those
guitar,
tunes.
it is. She has a few pedal steel players and fiddle players that kind of get rotated in and out. And the pedal steel players are all just, they blow my mind. And they're great guitar players too, which is even like, man, just pick one. Like,
Get at them,
because
cut
they'll
it
play a
out.
great pedal steel solo, then I play, and then they'll pick up their guitar and play something. I'm like,
Right.
I'll Ingve up a country song every once in a while just to like, you know, all right, you guys are killing me in the bluegrass field, so I'm gonna throw this at you and see what happens.
Right.
um,
That's not an uncommon thing. A lot of rock players end up playing country music, right?
yeah, yeah. I think you know if you get into the history of rock and all that stuff, it came from such a rootsy place to begin with.
Right.
Between the blue, there's such a fine line between blues and country.
Yeah.
It's the stories that are told. There's are very similar,
Right.
and song forms are very similar for the most part. So, you know, I always tell students if they're trying to break out of the bluesy pentatonic thing, just move it 3 frets the other direction. Now you got country licks, and
Right.
um, they it's there's such a crossover. For me, what did it again? Like I was like 4, I think. And my grandparents had this um, ceramic music box thing. It was a guy sitting on a bale of hay, and like you'd wind it up, and it would tap its foot and it would strum the guitar and sing a country song. So I was like infatuated with that. And then my grandparents also, my grandfather coming back from the war got into a lot of country music. Um, so like we had the New York side where it's a lot of Sinatra
Uh-huh.
and stuff like that, and then Hank Williams and things like that. So I started hearing similarities between Jimmy Page and then some of these country
Oh,
guys.
you bet, especially when he got into his B-bender phase. I mean, the guitar
Yeah,
solo in Black Dog is
yeah,
is country. I mean, it's major pentatonic. I don't know if I would call it country licks, but they are not rock licks.
yeah, yeah. It's you change the feel slightly on it, and I totally would put that in the country. You know, in a country song. Um, I do so superimpose the main riff from Black Dog. No, from Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll play Folsom Prison Blues in E,
Yeah.
and when we get to that A chord, I'll play bam 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 ba da dun. Yeah.
There was always, I did a gig for a long time, and there was always the point, point in the gig, because you want to make things fun for yourselves, right? You're looking around on stage, you're playing these some gigs more so than others. You feel like, all right, we're doing this one again, cover gigs,
Right.
and you're like, well, all right, here we go, fucking friends in low places or whatever. And eventually you're like, I don't know, I want to play the first lick from the Stairway solo in here instead, and like however you have to make that happen, like, and it's a source of great entertainment for the band, and then some people in the audience catch it, but um, it's also, I think it's a cool way to transpose on the fly, and it's a way to keep your brain activated, but
Yeah.
working in other bits of songs into like into song, like doing mashups essentially, uh I think is
Yeah.
great. It's great exercise.
Yeah. It really is. Like, I often, if I'm playing Last Dance with Mary Jane, I'll throw in the tune to the Flintstones in the solo section. And a few years ago, the tune to Funky Town became the. I was dared one night to put it into every song, and I did. I did to every single song.
Right.
And
It's a
I would
killer
change the
melody.
phrasing.
Right.
It is. I would change the phrasing and everything to make it fit. And sometimes the one band that dared me to do it, I'd wait until the singer was going to sing to come back in, and I'd play it real quick and see if I could make him laugh.
Right.
Because
To bring it all the way
we're
around, I was doing that same thing. I toured with that band, Harvey Danger, and we toured with SR-71, and and so every night I would put the higher lick from Creed, that now. And that
that's
song was at the peak of its popularity in 2000, 2001 when we were out. And those guys are definitely like, they had no appreciation for that song. And to be honest, I was pretty over it. I think it's a fucking great song. Like,
it is
whatever you think, I don't care what you think about the band. That song is incredible, and that's why it was wildly popular. So, but I
right.
would put that lick into one of their songs, and it was like this close to being fired every night, and I'd be like, I won't do it again. I know you guys, you're very serious about your music and whatever, but I did it every single night,
That's
and it's great.
yeah.
It's great.
With Cowboy Mouth, Fred laughs. I'll catch him every once in a while. I'll throw in we'll play like Ico, Ico, Ico,
Uh
and I'll throw in the Top Gun anthem.
huh.
Oh, look at that hammer! That's
That's a
awesome.
Steve Stevens right there. Um,
That's
so
so cool.
tell me about. I mean, we're gonna flash forward quite a bit. Um, you moved to. Had you already been playing with Cowboy Mouth when you moved to Texas?
Yeah, so I've been playing with them for about 7 years now.
Oh, okay.
Two as the full time member. Um, so a really good friend of mine back home, this guy Matt Jones. Um, he was their guitar player and asked if I could fill in for him. And I had like a week to put all the songs together. And Fred sent me a list of like 40 tunes, and I learned them all, charted them out, and called called Matt and was like, "Hey man, about these songs." He goes, "How many? We play 15 of the same songs all the time." He's like, "We don't play any of these other ones." But Fred, you know, new guy, he wants to freshen up the list. We didn't at that time,
But you learned all 40
but
anyway.
I did. So they're always in my back pocket. But I ended up, that first weekend did a good enough job that they called me to do the other guitar player's job when he went on vacation. And I kind of bounced back and forth, and then got a call to play bass on one gig, and the bass player ended up being able to do it, so they didn't need me. But the opportunity came up. Matt has a good job. He's an A1 audio engineer for MSNBC, so he had to make a difficult decision, and you know, I got the offer,
Oh, that's great.
and was very fortunate to get that call. And he's back home. He still plays the Jimmy's Chicken Shack. Like, I've done that gig a couple times, which is that is an interesting gig because you can't really chart the songs out
Right.
because it's all angular, like riff based stuff. So you have to know the song.
Right.
Um, but yeah, with Cowboy Mouth, it became this thing of just like Fred really likes my feel. I spent a lot of time, even though I had like that Vi Satriani, Eric Johnson thing growing up as a guitar player. Like, I was still deeply rooted in the blues and like Jeff Beck and Bo Diddley. So like, you know, hold on, dogs are going. So sorry. Give me one second.
All right, no worries.
All right, the stars of the show are here.
All right.
But what's up, bud? But Fred really, the singer of Cowboy Mouth, the band's so interesting. Um, Whenever I have people come out and go like, "What's the show like?" First thing I say is, it's not a show; it's an experience. It's not just going to a concert,
Right.
because he makes everybody part of it. Um, Fred, he's the drummer, and he sets up center stage and runs it like a Southern Baptist revival.
Right.
The music is always going. The music never stops. And he's very into the power of positivity and being here and now. Like, he'll not yell at people, but he'll give them a hard time if they have their phones out. It's like, especially now, because, after being, in lockdown watching TV, and his big line is like, you know, we've had 2 years of watching Netflix. I'm not the Tiger King.
Yeah.
Be here and be part of this. Like,
Sure. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, and he also, there's this, he'll go out in the crowd, and when that happens, I play the kick drum.
Oh.
So I'll play the main riff of the song, and I'll play the kick drum. He'll go talk to people and bring them closer to the stage, and he's his goal is to have everybody be part of it.
Yeah.
And leave feeling better.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's I always come home from those shows feeling so rejuvenated and just like, all right, everything's great. Let's do this.
Right.
And yeah, it's funny though, because in Soundcheck, Matt, the last guitar player, grew up playing originals. He learned like Metallica songs and stuff like that, as I did too. But he was really committed to original music and creating his own thing. And Fred loved that about him. And what the difference is between us, like, I grew up more in that blues thing, and country and everything. So like we'll, you know how sound checks can go sometimes, where you know sometimes you can do it for 10 minutes and everyone gets dialed in. It's like, all right, let's go eat.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, we'll sit there and jam for an hour and a half. So like, what are you eating, buddy? Sit down. All right. um, yeah, this is Gunner. He is 5 months old
Oh, 5
and wants to
months.
get into everything.
Yeah, of course he does.
5 months, 55
Yeah,
pounds.
wow. That's going to be a big boy.
He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Yeah.
And back there by the door is Lily. She's a little camera shy right now.
I can't see her. Oh, she a Frenchie?
She's French, English, and a Staffordshire Terrier.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, she looks a little like a bigger Frenchie, but she's all muscle and she's a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart. But yeah, so Fred likes the fact that like we'll do the Cowboy Mouth songs and they'll be ready to go. He also, and the other guys give me a hard time sometimes, but like we'll be in the car and Fred will go, "Hey man, can you learn such and such a song for next week?" And I'll throw my headphones on and we'll get sound check and I'll start playing it.
Oh.
So
And they're like, "Hey,
um,
asshole. We didn't
and
learn it."
it's like they know the songs, but it's just been so long since they've had to play them
Sure.
that they have to access the memory bank. Um, but we'll do that, and then we'll start playing like Hank Williams' "I Saw the Light,"
Sure.
and then I mean one day we went from Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, the ZZ Top
Yeah.
tune, to Pistol Packing Mama,
Uh-huh.
that old like country standard, and then finished it with Bodies by Sex Pistols.
That's perfect. Is
And
that a spontaneous thing that
it
happens
is, yeah, like,
spontaneously? So during sound check, does this happen spontaneously, and then is that sort of referenced during the show, or do things like that also happen spontaneously during the show?
well, it's definitely spontaneous during sound check. We you know, everyone will start getting their in ears dialed in and everything, and once we can tell like everyone's kind of good, it depends how everyone's feeling that day, but sometimes we'll just, it's usually me, I instigate it. I'll start playing a riff
Yeah,
and then everyone else kind of falls in. And it doesn't happen as much on stage as it used to. It used to happen all the time on stage. Um, there was a segment in the show where we play like not a full cover song, but like two or three parts of a like a verse and a chorus. Um, we would do when Dusty Hill passed away. We would do a Thunderbird,
hmm
the old ZZ Top song Thunderbird. So, and our bass player would sing that because he sings that stuff so well. Hi, buddy. So they yeah, the show's pretty regimented,
yeah.
and the flow is, it's not rehearsed. I mean, I had my first rehearsal with the band in 7 years last year. That was my first rehearsal with the band. And it's because we were having our guitar tech actually filled in
Yeah.
on guitar. Um, and like, you know, the cover songs we do, if we do anything, we'll do China by the Red Rockers.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that song at all.
I don't know that.
It had a little reawakening in a couple years ago in South Park.
Oh, okay.
um, but it's not really a cover song because it's our guitar player John Thomas Griffith. He was the singer of the Red Rockers.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, he was signed when he was like, I guess I would have made him 23 or something like that when that song came out.
Yeah.
So he was all over MTV at that point, and it's a really, really cool song. We play it way more punk rock than the original, but yeah. If you get a chance, check it out.
The way you're describing the show, it reminds me of seeing Presidents of the United States of America play. Have you ever seen them play live?
I haven't had the chance to. I love that band though.
They're one of the best live bands I've ever seen, and largely because the front man of that band, Chris Ballou, is just sort of like can just take it anywhere. Like he'll just keep building it and building it and building it, or he'll break it all the way down and he'll interject a lot of songs, and it's just and a lot of it is, you know, the show is different every single night, even though there's a set list. It's just like, you know, it just is wildly different every night.
Right.
And it sounds like, you know, sounds similar in its energy and desire to have the audience be a part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the I'm watching. If it wasn't for the audience,
Sure,
we wouldn't be able to do this. So they are an equal part of the show,
of course.
and that synergy between, like, we are given a lot of energy and, hopefully receiving that back, and it's that cycle that really kind of, perpetuates and helps us through. Play nice, guys. So they go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I do want to I want to ask you about your affinity for the PRSs. I know that you're from Maryland, and I don't know if that has any. I know a lot of people who are diehard, PRS players from all over the place. But how did that come to be? And it's also, it's for a player, like being someone who worked for PRS for a while. Like I still have a couple PRSs. Still play them occasionally. Love them. I think they make great guitars. They're not the cheapest guitars to get your hands on, and so there's that weird balance where for working musicians, most working musicians don't make a ton of money. If you have a regular full-time job, you probably make more money and you're more capable of buying a higher end guitar like that. Tell me how you fell into playing those guitars, and um, what it is that you love about them so much. Because I see you playing. It's not like you just play the Silver Skies. You've got a bunch of different models.
Yeah. Well, I fought it for a long time.
Right.
In high school, it was that late 90s, early 2000s. Everyone was playing a custom 24 through a rectifier of some kind. And I was like, no, man, I'm going to be different. All my heroes played Strats, Les Pauls through Marshalls. And that's that Marshall on the bottom and that cabinet I've had since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I bought that. I sold it. I bought it back. But I bought that JCM 800 half stack for like $500.
That's a good investment.
Because no one wanted it,
Right.
you know? And I was like, man, it's the Zach Wild amp, you know, not realizing all the mods that go into making that.
Sure.
But it's a great amp, you know,
Just
outside of it.
fantastic amp.
But, you know, I stuck to Strats mainly. My first real guitar I bought in high school was you know, I begged my mom. Guitar Center had like a scratch and dent sale,
Yeah.
and they had an Eric Clapton model, white. It had the lace sensor pickups in it, and I begged my mom. Like she's like, "No, you got to pay for it if you want it."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, can you get the credit card? And I'll get the Guitar Center credit card, and I'll pay for it." And they were having their, you know, financing, no interest, whatever. She's like, well, you have 6 months to pay it off. So I figured it out, you know?
Right.
um, and because I wanted it so bad. And I wish I would have held on to that guitar. But, you know, I fought it because all my heroes, it was also that part of, like you were just saying, the guitars are so expensive that I just couldn't see myself, you know, realistically owning one.
Right.
I bought my first PRS when I was playing with that band Plunge because their big thing was a PRS through a Mesa Boogie Mark IV. That was the tone of the band, and the guitar player, or you know, the singer, was endorsed by Paul Reed Smith already. So I ended up buying a pre-lawsuit single cut.
Oh,
Um,
great.
that was Silver Sparkle. It was awesome, and I really bonded with that guitar. And then I ended up getting an endorsement a few years later to find out that I didn't have a true endorsement. Uh there was some shady stuff going on inside
Got it.
PRS at that time. And the gentleman that you know kind of got me with it was he got caught and
Sure.
arrested and everything.
I think I've heard
But I
this
had
story
made
from
yeah
inside. Yeah.
yeah, but I had made friends, you know, Grover and a bunch of guys like that just from playing in the Annapolis area.
Yeah.
Because I was playing down in Annapolis like 2 times a week. And then I was a big Jarflies fan. So, like, Brian, you know, getting to know Brian and everything. And Brian and I were kind of the same as far as like we played mainly Strats and, you know, our love for guitars like that. Um,
What you're dealing with is exactly why I keep this little guy on my lap while I'm doing podcasts.
um, yeah, you can chew on the root case. That's fine. TSA can't mess it up
Right.
as bad as. Um. So. Um. So after years, like I had a CE22 that I played for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was doing the fill-in stuff with Jimmy's Chicken Shack, you know, Jimmy's Chicken Shack is another one of those bands it's guitar and amp specific. Jimmy's very particular about tones. It's only neck position of a PRS through a Saldana. That's the sound,
Wow.
you know, which is an awesome sound. Um, but so I just held on, and I'm still an artist now, like
Yeah.
you know, and I bought that guitar, the Sunburst, the DGT, in 2008 when they first came out,
Yeah.
and you know that guitar has been stolen, and I got it back. When you look at it, like almost all the finish is worn off of the neck
Yeah.
because it's you know down to the bare wood. Like I've put so many hours in on it.
I
And
love
actually,
the
my silver
DGT. The DGT might be my favorite. Is it a trim or non-trim? I can't tell.
it's Trem, yeah.
Right.
It's and it's so versatile. I changed two things on it. So it had just the one push pull pot
Yeah.
on it. I put one on each volume knob,
Okay.
so I can get a couple more things in there.
Sure.
Um, but I also put a piezo in the bridge.
Oh, wow.
Um, I put the what's it, Graph Ghost saddles
Got it.
on it,
How do you like
and
them?
it sounds. I've had sound guys go, sounds like we're miking up a Gibson.
Right.
Like, cool, like um, I've used it on sessions. Like that's been if I can only take one guitar, I take that
Right.
because I can get Strat ish, Telly ish, Les Paul ish tones out of it. And then the acoustic, so I can kind of cover anything. Plus the tuning stability is great. Being able to use the trem, I mean, you can't go wrong. And being that I live just north of Austin, I go down and see David on
That's
Tuesdays
awesome.
at the Saxon. He plays every Tuesday for free at this place called the Saxon Pub, and I'll go down. And, you know, he knows Cowboy Mouth,
Right.
which is really funny. I had that conversation with him when I first moved here,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Yeah, I know those guys. They used to play with Joe Ely when he was in the band." So
Yeah.
um, so we talk about that every once in a while. But you know, I have the Vela. I have a couple Miras. I have a couple custom 22s that I really like. But those two sitting up on the wall are my mains.
Those are your guys.
Yeah, the Silver Sky being a Strat guy, my entire life, like that guitar just felt like home. As soon as I picked it up, I was like, "This is what I've been waiting for."
I wonder if they will ever offer the Silver Sky with humbuckers as an option. Probably not. They're very um, particular about what they'll do.
I would think it would have to be if John did it,
Right.
that would kind of dictate that. I would think anyway,
Right.
because what I I really like the Fiore, the
Yeah.
Mark Lettieri version.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super cool.
Um, I got to take one of those out and test drive it, and man, like I don't like the neck as much, just because I don't like the thinner profile. I like a Louisville Slugger that's cut in half.
Right. It's a
I
more
like those
modern thing.
necks, yeah. And but I love the ash body and hum single single. So I'm kind of like, I raised the question. I was like, can I get like a private stock with that body with a pick guard, but the Silver Sky neck? No, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So they're like, you can buy both guitars and do it. I'm like, yeah.
They can
So that might happen
inlay
at some point.
they can inlay the top of a private stock with some insane doesn't thing that you could not possibly imagine, but well, especially when you get into the artist models, because I
Right,
remember that being a thing. It's like, well, the artist model is the artist model because of these features, and when we make it,
right,
that person's name is attached to it. We can't just go, and we have an agreement with, you know we have a trusted agreement with these artists, so we can't just go making changes to these things that we've agreed just because
right,
you want it.
right.
Well, go get famous, and
And
we'll make a signature model for you. It'll be just like that.
yeah, and the guitars modify well. I want to do another USA Silver Sky eventually, and put a humbucker in the bridge, do the hum single single thing on it.
Yeah.
Um, but the guitars just play so well, and that's what draws me to them. Like, um, I'm not even gonna call out different companies. There's quality control
Yeah.
with a lot of the major brands have been so up and down. Um, and you can point fingers and blame ownership or uh, just the volume and wanting to get them out there, whatever. The PRS, even the SE models, you're getting
No, they're
the
amazing.
same attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I think that's what does it for me is I know I can take one of these guitars out on the road, I can fly with it, I can get to the next city, the neck's still going to be straight, it's still going to play and perform the way I want it to.
Right.
And I think that having that consistency and having that confidence in it is what draws me to those guitars. Um, there's no flying on some of these gigs, like you're flying it with Cowboy Mouth. We fly in the day of,
Sure.
which is nerve wracking sometimes because, you keep hearing about all these flights that get canceled. And, you know, there's very minimal room for error. And I build it between that, my pedal board fits into my backpack, so I can just, or I'll take like these Velcro straps and wrap it to the neck part of a mono double case,
Sure.
and it still just fits in the overhead on Southwest, no problems. And I can get everything on and off generally without having to check anything.
Have they been
And
cool about letting you bring your guitar on the plane every time? Because I've run into issues where they're like, you're gonna have to gate check that.
yeah,
Tough shit.
Southwest has been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Southwest is fine. American, Delta, um, those are the three we usually fly. Our tour manager is very good at trying to get me on any Southwest, as long as it makes sense,
Yeah.
you know, any Southwest flight that I can get. Because luckily, as the frequency we fly, I have A-list preferred.
Right.
So I'm able to get on there pretty quick. Even
Screw other people out of the overhead space.
even if I didn't, I'd spend that extra $30 to get the early bird check in,
Sure.
and then that $40 to get the business class, the A1 through 15. Um, Other airlines, I gate check it. I've had a couple issues where I've gone to the city that I'm supposed to go. My guitars have gone to another city, and I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
Why am I in North Carolina? My guitars are in Vegas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like
They better
that's
earn
a valid
something when they come
question.
back,
Yeah. Did they get?
you know?
Do they have status?
Right. um, so, and that it does get nerve wracking, but like they usually just make me valet it,
Right.
so they'll be there when I get off the plane.
Right.
And there was one time that the person carrying it dropped it on the stairs, and luckily the mono cases they do a great job.
Sure.
Um, so I haven't had it's I'm gonna knock on wood now, but it's been several years since I've had a catastrophic guitar issue flying.
I think we talked
Um,
about this. I lost my guitars 4 times in six trips across the Atlantic this year. They just misplaced them. They were late. Sometimes it was 2 days, 3 days. Once it was a week. Once it was 2.5 weeks. Once I was in Europe again, and my pedal board was just arriving at my house from my last trip home. So luckily, I was using a different fly rig, but uh, it's inspired me to completely redo my whole thing, and I'm even considering taking the necks off of guitars, carrying them on
yeah,
in a roller bag, and checking my clothes inside of a double gig bag. I have a mono and I have a
right.
reunion blues double gig bag. And I'm thinking like I'll put my clothes in the double gig bag, and then when I get over to wherever I'm going, put the necks on, do the switcheroo, and then my clothes are in my roller bag. Fine.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
there, there's a bunch of people that do that. Yeah.
it, I mean, it feels like the safest bet considering what a terrible experience I had this last summer.
Yeah. Not being able
Oh, they
to
heard
carry
my
the
dog
guitars
cry,
on.
huh?
I think so.
Yeah. Um, yeah, well, knock on wood that we both have better experiences in the future, the best
Yeah.
experiences. What do you have planned
Seriously.
for 2023?
Well, so Cowboy Mouth is going to hit it a little harder this year in 2023.
Uh-huh.
We got last year we played Hootie Fest with Hootie and the Blowfish.
Awesome.
And Mark Bryan actually from Hootie will will fill in with us from time to time
Oh, awesome.
when the other guitar player can't make it.
Uh-huh.
They have a long-standing history together.
Great.
And so yeah, we'll go do that in Cancun, um, which is awesome. Not only get to play music, but you get to see. For me, it's such a it's all the bands I grew up learning how to play in the '90s. You know, better than Ezra, Gin Blossoms, Bare Naked
Sure.
Ladies, Lit, all these bands, Goo Goo Dolls. And not only do I get to sit side stage and watch them as a fan, you know, but I'm also like we're peers a
You're
little
rooming
bit,
next to
and
him.
yeah, we get to hang out,
You're
and
hitting the
it's
buffet.
really cool. And everyone said, yeah, it's like, ah, he's having the Rancho Huevos, you know, Huevos. But we got that going on. I have set my goal to get my instrumental record done.
Oh, awesome.
Um, I finished it, mixed it, and mastered it during COVID, and listened to it too many times, you know, instead of releasing it, and went, I don't like any of this, and I started over. So
With are you with completely new material or are you just retracking everything?
some of it's retracking, some of it's just new material.
Got it.
You know, kind of looking at my influences, a lot of my favorite players are from Texas.
Yeah.
Um, so like I feel like, you know, this is very much my home and it's meant to be my home. But like the Eric Johnson, Grissom, uh, Leon Rhodes, who is Ernest Tubbs' guitar
Yeah.
player, but and Steve Ray Vaughan, of course, you
Sure.
know, like all these cats, like so I'm drawing more from the influences within the area that I'm living in now,
Right.
and there's just this whole new organic thing has come out,
Awesome.
and so I'm looking
When do
forward to.
you hope to have that out?
Uh, I'm gonna shoot for March. I don't want to rush myself and put a deadline on it
Sure.
and not be happy with it, but um, should have like a 6-song EP out by March
Oh,
at the
that's awesome.
latest.
You have to for sure
Um,
make sure that that it's I mean, I follow you, so I'm sure that I'll see the updates, but please remind me. I'll help get the word out there.
awesome, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm still fighting with like trying to do a fully instrumental record
Right.
or having like a couple songs with vocals, you know, a la like Avia Musicom.
Sure.
You know, Eric Johnson always, it's not straight shred the whole time. There's a lot of melody and vocals in his stuff. So, and same with David Grissom. I mean, you know, he's just really good songwriters. And so I'm tossing that up. I might actually have one or two songs with vocals on there.
Amazing.
But yeah, and I'm using a host of like, I have a drummer and bass player back in Maryland
Hmm.
that I'm sending tracks to, and they're gonna track together
Oh, great.
and get the rhythm section together. So it has more of a live feel. Um, and then I have a couple guys in Texas here that I'm gonna be using.
Awesome.
Uh, so it's really exciting. It's starting to shape up and come together.
You should meet my
But
friend
between
Phil
the
Hurley in Austin. He's a great dude and a incredible guitar player. He's been down there for a
Awesome.
while. I know him from Seattle, but he's lived all over the place. But I think he would be a great dude for you to meet and hang with. I'm gonna make introductions, and his band plays Austin and the surrounding areas quite a bit.
Awesome, yeah. I'd love to. I have a couple like bucket list venues, like to play, and
Yeah.
Green Hall
Well, Phil
is
plays Green
is
Hall a lot. Maybe you get a fill-in gig playing with him. Who knows?
I'd love to.
But
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah.
introduce you guys. I've been there. I
Oh,
went there
man.
and saw him play. What a cool place, man. What a cool
Yeah,
place.
I've been through like on my way to another gig. I stopped in just to see it and take it in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Man, what do you got going on in the new year?
But I got
Are you coming through
nothing on
Texas
the
at all?
books. I got nothing on the books. My plan is to, here I am. I'm home and I'm just back to focusing on doing Couch Riff stuff. So I'm gonna try to reincorporate me actually being in a room with people doing stuff. So I'm gonna try to the videos, the performance videos had to move over to being quarantine style, like what we did together. And
Yeah,
that's fun and
so much.
everything, but at a certain point, that's gonna remind people of a time that was not a happy time for a lot of people. And
Right,
also players in general, they're harder to nail down. And it's not as fresh of a concept, but I'm going to try to incorporate me in a room with someone and pre-recorded performance, not just backing track. That's how I started
right.
doing it. So I have a bunch of ideas of how to travel and create content. I just have to find the most realistic way to execute it, and hopefully pick up some
Right on.
more gigs. Like I loved playing. It's funny. I started playing bass in most all of my Couchers videos because I wanted to find bass gigs. I was like, well, this is one way for people to see that I can play bass, And so, of course, then I got a guitar gig. But I did get a bass gig this year and did a bit of touring, and that was great. I loved it. So hopefully, I don't know, more gigs. Hopefully, Couch Riffs gets spreads my name a little bit wider, and someone has the thought to invite me to give it a shot. So far it's worked out
Well,
well.
that's awesome. Yeah, hopefully we get to cross back.
I would love it.
We've been ships crossing in the night, passing in the night for so long. Like it's time we need to get together and hang out.
That's what I say. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be crazy for me to be in Texas. I have my in-laws are there. I have possibly a little bit of business to do there soon, and I have a lot of friends in Austin. And now uh, you're also there, so one more friend nearby. So
Awesome.
I would love to cross paths. If you're ever playing a gig in Massachusetts or New York or even New Jersey, it's not too far away. Um,
Okay.
please let me know. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, I'd love to hang. I do. I want to
Awesome,
wrap it
Mike.
up. I'm gonna kill
Okay.
this right now. Thank you so much uh, for giving me so much time. And
Man, thank you for having me.
you're a great player. You're a hell of a nice guy, and I wish you the best of everything and
Thank you
whatever
so
you
much.
are doing.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's see here.